got the facts on his side, and that your ad that you just started airing is factually incorrect. Agree? Disagree?
You know, as ballots are starting to hit mailboxes, I'm glad that Andrew agrees with us that facts are important. Our ad is 100% based on the facts, and we just think there's questions that demand answers. For instance, why did Andrew close his PAC 4 months after he started running if it was such a central issue to his campaign? I think it's a legitimate question. I think it's one that voters should know.
Are you saying that you believe that he's taken PAC money for the purposes of this campaign?
Our ad does not say that he has a history of taking PAC's money, and he's made that the central issue of his campaign.
So you're not saying, though, that he's done that in this race, just that that's something he's done up until this race?
That's right.
Okay. Any sort of defensive, obviously they just hand us a list. I haven't looked over it, but it's fairly thick, and apparently these are the contributions Mike has taken in the last 18 months. Do you want to talk about sort of the difference that, as you mentioned, Andrew's made the sort of central point of his campaign? Do you want to explain kind of where you guys stand on this?
Could you repeat the question just real quick? Sorry.
Well, this appears to be a lot of special interest contributions. So obviously, if that's his argument,
right?
Does he have a point?
Andrew took special interest money for nearly a decade. I think Andrew's charges that he's made against Michael are factually inaccurate. I think Michael's record proves that it's inaccurate, and it's somewhat disappointing to see that. But again, Andrew has a lot of questions that he needs to answer. 4 months is a long time before you stop accepting PAC money. He didn't mention anything about PACs or special interests when he announced his candidacy in September, waited until January. I think there's a legitimate question as to why. He ran his own PAC. He accepted PAC contributions while he was serving in the legislature. And I think the voters need to know these things. I think they need to know why. And if this is the central issue of his campaign, you know, why not explain that?
But the question he's asking, though, which is for Senator who's casting votes in the Senate right now, having taken all this money in the last 18 months, has he been influenced by this money?
Absolutely not.
Votes been influenced?
Absolutely not. And if you look at Michael's voting record, you'll see that. Andrew, unfortunately, is looking at Michael's record with blinders on, which is easy to do. The voters, though, are looking at this election with eyes wide open. You know, they see all of Michael's votes. Andrew wants to frame them one way, but the truth is what the voters will see.
Is it a fair question to ask, though, given that there appears to be this long list of donations and he is casting votes right now? Is the question, you're giving me kind of the answer, but is it a fair question to ask in this campaign?
I think that's a character attack, and I think that's what people don't want in this race.
How is it a character attack specifically?
It's a character attack from Andrew Romanoff about Michael Bennet, to say that you can be influenced by money you take. Andrew took money for 8 years, nearly a decade. What does that mean about his 8 years of service? I think that's a question that should answer.
Commercial you're airing now a character attack in a similar vein?
I think the commercial we're airing is a response to Andrew's continued assaults on Michael's record.
I'm free to...
To say that Andrew only made the decision to shun PAC money 4 months into the campaign is not only a rewriting of history, it's factually inaccurate. Andrew got into this race on September 16th.
That's right.
He made two announcement speeches. You're correct that it was not big at those two announcement speeches, but in October, at multiple public and press events, Andrew said he was not taking any special interest money. That goes back to October. The facts also are, you are correct, that Andrew technically did not shut down what was a dormant PAC. But those who look at the Secretary of State's records, you and Craig and Senator Bennet know very well that the last PAC contributions that were received by Andrew Romanoff were in 2006, and that PAC sat dormant. That PAC that took $100 and $200 was used to elect Democrats in the state of Colorado, which is how we took the majority back. But that PAC has been dormant since it sat there in 2006. It sat around. The last money that was in it was given to a charity for veterans. So for people to try to take this spin that this PAC was actually sitting there and Andrew was running it is not only misleading, it's a twisting of the facts. And people here in Colorado need to know that, yes, Andrew has said he's not the perfect messenger. He did once take money. He got the wake-up call. Just like then Senator Obama got the wake-up call, Andrew Romanoff saw the corrupting influence that money was having in Washington. And frankly, if Wall Street melting down is not enough of a wake-up call for the rest of Washington, if the biggest environmental disaster in our nation's history because of lax regulatory and safety standards isn't a wake-up call. If Big Pharma and insurance's ability to thwart the things that we wanted to get through in healthcare reform are not a wake-up call, I don't know what's going to be a wake-up call. But to say that Andrew was taking PAC money up through this race, which is what the ad insinuates, is a rewriting of history, a misstatement of the facts, and a twisting of things from a guy who has said he's running a Rose Garden strategy and staying above it because he doesn't want to engage in politics as usual. But this is also a campaign who in Colorado Springs bemoaned during a debate politics as usual, saying we don't want to engage in that, and 3 minutes after it was sending out a press release accusing Andrew of rewriting history and engaging in fiction on his anti-immigrant history. It's coming from a campaign that's sending out tweets attacking Andrew's character. We will continue to engage in a rigorous debate on the facts, on policy, on money, but it is important that people know Andrew hasn't taken money from PAC since 2006. You know that. Senator Bennet knows it. The people of Colorado know it.
Berrick, what about the leadership PACs that he was involved
The leadership PAC that he did have, and if I'm correct, the last contributions it received were two. One was from the community bankers and business to encourage local business growth, and that was in 2007. So goes back to, again, the same time that then Senator Obama stopped taking PAC money. At no time has this campaign accepted or solicited PAC money, and in fact, as you know, more and more unions, labor unions, from the West Metro firefighters to UFCW, who endorsed Andrew Romanoff at the same time that Michael Bennet was taking money from Safeway, while UFCW and Safeway were in negotiations over labor talks. But this campaign has never accepted, never solicited, and in fact, these unions had offered and have brought over checks and said, we would like to put this $10,000 into your campaign, and Andrew has said no. So the other spin out of the Bennet campaign, that Andrew is simply turning it down as a matter of political expediency because he can't get the money, is again false, because the checks have been brought to us and we have said, no, we are drawing the line. There will be only individuals contributing to this campaign.
Berrick, the last statewide campaign that Andrew ran was Amendment 59. That raised millions of dollars from special
I'm glad you brought that up. Because,
I have a question about that, including from groups like the Mortgage Bankers Association, things like that.
No.
Andrew took the money. Two questions. How does that square with saying that he hasn't accepted any PAC money since 2007, and that was money raised through 2008? And can you run a ballot issue like that statewide without taking special interest money? Because there wasn't very many individual donations.
I think I'm glad you asked the question. I wasn't involved in Amendment 59. Ironically, it was Craig Hughes, Tyler Chafee from RBI Strategies that was running 59 for SAFE. What I would say is a couple things. I wasn't there, so I don't know the reasons they did or didn't, and I'm not going to comment on can you run a statewide ballot initiative without that money. What I will tell you that I'm quite certain of, despite the Supreme Court giving the rights of personhood to corporations, as far as I know, an amendment or a piece of legislation cannot cast a vote. So I think there is a world of difference when we're talking about the fundamental conflict of interest that comes when an elected official who must oversee and cast votes is taking money from the very people that he has to oversee versus a piece of legislation. What we do know is that Andrew Romanoff, like Senator Obama when he took the pledge, Andrew Romanoff will never have to make the decision between what is profitable for his contributors that are bankrolling his campaign and what is in the best interest of his constituents. An amendment, once passed, is not going to be charged with regulating or passing votes over those people that are funding it. So I would say there's a fundamental difference, but I'm not going to speak for Andrew's position. I just think that for anybody trying to equate a piece of legislation with a legislator, it's a big difference.
So there's not a corrupting influence?
No, he was finished with his term in office.
No, I'm talking about the 59. Special interest money didn't have a corrupting influence on the election.
There was, because that was a defined piece of legislation. It wasn't that money was going to come in and that legislation, the wording was going to change or altered or made to benefit anybody else. It was and in fact, I would say it's one of the purest forms of democracy, because here is what the wording is going to be. Here is what people can vote for. Okay. There will be no word changes. There will be no backroom deals. Right. This is simply what it is.
So it's okay for special interest money to fund that kind of
I'm not going to comment on that. I wasn't there for that election, and right now I'm focused on making sure that we elect a senator whose obligations are solely to the people of Colorado. And frankly, we have two good men that have very different backgrounds. And just like Trevor is going to be talking a lot about what Andrew did in the State House and is sent to Channel 4, and Michael, I know to you, a lot of things purporting to be things in Andrew's record, I think this campaign is going to involve a full vetting of what both men have done in an elected office and on the credentials that they're basing their qualifications for.
Thanks.